Okay, then I think now is a good time to go ahead and get started. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar titled The COVID Vaccine, Myths and Facts. My name is Omar Rayashi. I'm a second-year medical student at Rosalind Franklin, and I will be the MC for today's webinar. So a big thank you for joining us today for this important topic, to the various masajid tuning in, as well as our neighboring churches, all for being here. So as we all know, COVID-19 has caused an emotional roller coaster for pretty much everyone in the year 2020. As we come to a close this year, however, there have been a number of developments to combat the tyranny of this virus, most notably being a vaccine. Now, it's no surprise that this vaccine has come and met with a lot of scrutiny and suspicion from many communities and people of all backgrounds, and the Muslim community is no exception to this. So we figured it's imperative for correct knowledge from leading experts who also happen to be within our own community to guide us through educated and logical thinking on the matter. So alhamdulillah, we're joined today by 4 experts who will discuss topics on COVID-19 and the vaccine, ranging from its effects on the community and health system as a whole, the safety of the vaccine, benefits of taking it, how it works, and of course, any potential things to consider. Afterwards, inshallah, we'll have a Q&A session to get everything that the community would like answered. Now, you can ask your questions in the chat at any time during the event, and inshallah, they will be asked during the Q&A if time permits. So without making the introduction too long, I'd like to now introduce our first speaker. So first up, we have Dr. Mohammed Shazad, who has been a private practitioner at S&K Medical Center since 1999. He's been active in teaching both medical residents and students since then. And actually, I can attest to this as I shadowed Dr. Shahzad before I was admitted to medical school. He's a great physician, mashallah. He's also been spearheading the COVID-19 program since the outbreak of the pandemic and has extensive experience in the management of infected patients. He's also the Chief of Department of Internal Medicine at AMITA Glenoaks Hospital and has been active in the Chicago Muslim Medical Association for a number of years, providing faith-oriented care for Muslim communities and nursing homes. So Jazakallah khair, Dr. Shahzad, for being here. I'll go ahead and pass it on over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I just wanted to start this meeting by saying that thank you all for joining. And 3 words that I would say that come from the Quran, Rabbi zidni ilma, means, oh Lord, increase my wealth of knowledge. So I hope this small webinar today increases the wealth of your knowledge, and maybe something productive comes out of it and we can all practice that. Before we all start all of this, let me start to share a couple of slides. And before we start, I just wanted to tell you, everybody talks about COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19. Very few people know what it actually means. What does COVID mean? This word is derived from 3 words. Number 1, co means corona, VI means virus, D means disease. So COVID is a combination of these 3 words. 19 is the year it denotes, 2019, when it was discovered and it was spread all over the world. Let me share a couple of screens with you guys. First of all, this is not the first pandemic that has happened. There have been multiple pandemics all over the world. Number 1, Black Death, that ranged from 1347 to 1351, called bubonic plague, originated in rats and spread to human via infected fleas. And it actually, interestingly, wiped out about 30 to 50% of Europe's population. And it took more than 200 years for the continent's population to recover. Second one, from 1918 to 1919, Spanish flu wiped out 40 to 50 million people, huge number. And then COVID-19 comes, starting November 30th, 2020, wiped out too many people, and it is still ongoing. The actual live numbers can be shown on all the websites that are moving around and showing the actual numbers. The basic reproduction number of diseases, if you look at it, you know what, there has been, the infected person, one infected person has infected how many people? Influenza 1.5, Ebola 2.0, COVID 2.5, SARS 3.5, mumps 4.5, rubella 6.0, smallpox 6.0, measles 16.0. So many economic impacts, so many things that have happened since this pandemic started. Personal finances, the global finances. If you look at the whole global system and the American system, about 57% of Americans have experienced reduced income. 75% of Americans are worried about their financial future. If they lose their job, 35% can cover less than 1 month of expenses, 27% can cover 1 to 3 months, 15% can cover 4 to 6 months, and 27% can cover 7+ months. This is a very big number. And these are the reasons why the government starts giving stimulus checks out. But the impact is more than that, the social impact. Most of the people who rely on a day-to-day paycheck, their paycheck has gone. And the financial aspect of it, the psychological impact of it is immense. It is so immense that I have seen families literally crying when they come to the hospital because they cannot afford daily bread. And if you look at the screen, it looks like that the job loss persists for low-wage workers. And it has been more in these certain socioeconomic groups than anybody else. The economic recession caused by COVID-19 has especially been very devastating for the low-wage workers. While the recession is nearly over for high-income earners, fewer than half of the jobs lost this spring are back for those making under $20 per hour. And look at all this. How many people have potential US home loss spreading across the states? You can see that very well. Also look at this. This is very important as a community. The relationship between the pandemic distress index scores and the mental health symptoms. The signs of depression, signs of anxiety have gone up significantly. Unfortunately, younger adults and people of racial and ethnic minorities have carried out higher psychological burdens from the pandemic so far. In fact, a report from the CDC and prevention shows that 1 in 4 people ranging in age 18 to 24 age bracket have seriously considered committing suicide at some point during the month of June 2020, which is in line with the emotional distress coming from this age group. The issue is sure to be due to the economic turmoil brought out by the COVID-19 period. And the other thing is that, the younger generations face the dual challenge of being more likely to be negatively impacted by the pandemic. The reason being, most of them cannot get out. Most of them are not able to enjoy life like they used to before. This is a small breakdown of some of the things and some of the countries who were questioned that if they had a vaccine for COVID-19, if it was available, would they get it? And if you look at the numbers, India, about 80 to 90% people said they would take it. China, a lot more said that they would take it. South Korea, same. UK, surprisingly, the numbers are not very high. Mexico, lower than that. Canada, again, not more than that. Germany, very low. Japan, low. South Africa, low. So the concept that everybody wants to get this vaccine is quite different from US, from the rest of the world. If you look at US numbers, about 60 to 70% people said that they would take the vaccine, but not more than that. This is the second wave that we are going through. The first wave was in January, February, March, then it subsided for a little bit. And now you look at the second wave, we're going through the second wave, and there is a projected third wave. You look at all this. The next thing is how to flatten the curve. The reason it is very difficult is the capacity of this one is multifactorial. Number one, healthcare is overwhelmed. The intensive care units, all the floors on the hospital floors, they are all overwhelmed. Their numbers are going significantly higher. I personally can attest to that, that a lot of patients who come to the emergency room are being treated even in the hallways. And just one very interesting fact that a lot of people might not know, that during a pandemic, your hospital cannot go on bypass. If you are having a higher number of patients, no matter what, no matter how you accommodate them, you cannot go on bypass. So the capacity of flattening the COVID-19 case curves becomes more difficult because healthcare workers are getting sicker and sicker every day. I can personally attest to that. A couple of my physician friends, they are in ICUs struggling for life. Please make a dua for all of them. All of these measures are not going to be helpful unless and until we take the appropriate measures. Most of the talk about vaccine and its effectiveness and everything will come from the other experts who are much better experienced in this field rather than me. So I would encourage all of you that we should not be suffering like the people suffered in Spanish flu. If you can Google it, try Googling it and see what happened in Spanish flu, exactly what we are going through right now. Number one, they were doing the mask precaution at that time. We are being told to do that even now. They were told to socially distance. We are doing that even now. They were told to stay away from sick people and quarantine themselves at that time. We are doing that even now. So the principle has not changed. The principle is still the same. Although there was no vaccine at that time, the basic principles of treatment and quarantining are still the same, even after 100 or 105 years. So I would conclude with this one, and I would give the speaker to the next participant, and also to the next speaker. Please go ahead and share your thoughts about this one. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
All right, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Shazad, for the historical relevance as well as the overview on COVID-19. That was great. So next up, we have Dr. Mohammed Tabriz. He has obtained his medical degree, MBBS, from Dhaka Medical College, completed residency at Queen's Hospital Center in Mount Sinai, New York, and completed his fellowship in clinical infectious disease. He is board certified in both internal medicine and infectious disease, and currently practices as a consultant in infectious diseases at Advocate Christ Medical Center here in Chicago. His expertise focuses on complex cases of infectious diseases in critically ill patients. Dr. Tabriz serves as a clinical associate professor of medicine at the University of Illinois at Chicago and a fellow of Infectious Disease Society of America. Over the last 18 years, he has taught hundreds of medical and pharmacy students, as well as residents. His passion for teaching has extended to Bangladesh, where he has presented lectures and conducted workshops on infection control for more than 10 years. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Tabriz.
Thank you, Omar, for the nice introduction. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank the organizer, the all esteemed panelists, as well as the participants for taking the time to participate in today's webinar, which is so important at this time. So what we are going to try to do today, as Dr. Shazad laid out the topics in terms of the significance and the impact of this COVID-19, I would like to talk about the virus and the clinical aspect of it, and probably talk a little bit about the vaccine itself. And our other esteemed speakers will go more details about the vaccine technical part of it. So I would like to share some screen with you to talk about this. So as Dr. Shazad said, the virus itself is SARS coronavirus 2. The disease is COVID-19. Now, the reason this virus is called corona, because it has the shape of a crown, and that's why it's called the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus is not completely new. We have human coronavirus. There are about 4 different kinds of human coronavirus that every year, some of us get the cold symptoms, which is called common cold. This is actually caused by coronavirus. And before current SARS coronavirus 2, there were 2 other outbreaks, as Dr. Shazad outlined. There was SARS coronavirus, first virus that jumped from an animal to human was in 2003 and 2004. Then in 2012, we had MERS coronavirus at that time, and now we have this SARS coronavirus 2 causing this current pandemic. So the important structure of this virus that we need to understand that will help us understand the vaccine and probably will answer a lot of questions that people have. I'm going to just give very basic, simple way of explaining it because a lot of complexity is there, which is not necessarily very relevant for non-medical person. So the two important structure that is very important to understand for this virus is this genetic structure, which is called the RNA, and then the spike protein, which are basically these spike-like structures that come out of the virus coating. So these 2 structures are very important. In the Chinese scientists, they published the full genetic code of this RNA in January 11. It was very swift and quick. And that helped actually to develop the diagnosis as well as treatment as well as the vaccine that we now are talking about. The other important structure that all of us need to be aware of is the spike protein. You have seen the photo of this coronavirus, COVID-19 virus in all over the places. This spike protein is very important because this is the protein that attaches this virus to our body cell. The virus enters, and this is also very important for our body to make antibody to fight this virus. And this protein also is used for all the diagnosis that we talk about, and the treatment and the vaccine targets this spike protein that we can, we'll probably talk a little bit more in subsequent slides. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the clinical aspect of this COVID-19. So this is about the disease itself. As you know by now, as opposed to some other viruses that we deal with, this virus can be causing an infection in some people and not having any symptoms. So a lot of people who can have the virus, but they remain asymptomatic. The problem is during this asymptomatic phase, many of these people can spread the infection to other people. And that's the danger of that. They can silently spread to other people who are more vulnerable. And some of us will get symptoms. So what is the time period before you get the symptom after you get exposed to the virus? In general, most of us will develop symptom within 5 days after we are exposed to somebody with this virus. However, it could be up to 14 days, and that's why the idea of 14 days of quarantine comes. Many of these exposed and symptomatic patients will be what we call is mild to moderately sick. Means 80% of this patient population will get better after suffering some viral syndrome, which is usually like your regular fever, cough, fatigue, loss of smell and loss of appetite, and sometimes diarrhea and things like that. So this is about 5 to 7 days. The problem is about 15 to 20% of the patient may actually then progress to more severe and critical illness. About 15% will get severe illness, meaning they will develop difficulty breathing, their oxygen will be low, they can get sick, especially who are vulnerable, people who are more than 65 years or other underlying medical condition. About 5% of this symptomatic patient can go into critical illness requiring intensive care unit, life support through artificial breathing machine. Their kidney can fail and require dialysis. Some of our patients at Christ Hospital, because it's a tertiary hospital, are actually in support for their lung function too. The machine itself, it called an ECMO. What it does is actually, it bypasses the lung to oxygenate the blood and return the blood to the body. So these are extreme conditions, and eventually, obviously, a lot of death. As we know, in US only, more than 300,000 deaths happened in the last 10 months. So this is a very serious illness for some patient. And that's what is very important. It can overwhelm the hospitals if it continues to go infect more people. So the treatment of this disease, I would like to go to the next slide, but before that, I would like to highlight here. So this first 5 to 7 days where you get the infection, the virus is causing the problem. Means the virus is multiplying, it is infecting your lung and the tissues. So most of the symptom is due to the virus. However, about after 5 to 7 days, as your body form the immunity or antibody to this virus, at the same time it is causing, killing the virus, it is actually also causing some collateral damage to our body. So after 5 to 7 days, it's not the virus actually, but it is our own body's immune system attacking ourselves to cause most of the symptoms. And that's where the challenge comes. So what are the treatment available for this? As I said, for 80% of the people, they will get better without any specific treatment. 15 to 20% will require treatment. If you are mildly symptomatic, moderately symptomatic, you have no other medical problem, but just taking some Tylenol, hydration, and monitoring your oxygen would be, that's all you need. And some, investigational drug has been approved called monoclonal antibody. People who are sick and underlying medical condition and above 65, they can get this antibody to prevent from this disease to go in more serious condition to be in the hospital. We're not going to go into details. These are more technical and medical therapeutics. Then this patient who go into severe or critically ill condition, they are in the hospital. For them, we need to target some treatment. There is antiviral, which works in the early phase, first 5 to 7 days, which is still investigation, and it does not change the outcome of the life and death. It just decreases the duration in the hospital. And as I said, after 7 days, it is the body's immune system inflammatory response that caused the most of the damage. At that point, we use anti-inflammatory drug such as steroid and other investigational drug. But know that this is a viral illness, like many other viruses, we really don't have any effective drug. So many patients, despite all this thing, are dying in the hospital, including the young patient. That's where becomes the idea and importance of prevention. That is the key to get over this pandemic and back to the normal situation in the society. So the prevention is, as I said, the key to get over this pandemic, right? So how do you prevent this disease? There is something called herd immunity. Means, if certain number of population are immune to this virus, it protects the others. That's the idea of herd immunity. So, but for this virus, we really don't know actually how many people need to be immune, to get the protection for everybody else. But it is estimated that you need about more than 70% of the people or population to have some sort of immunity to this virus to be able to convert this immunity to everybody else. So if you really go through the natural process of infection to get this immunity, then you can imagine how many people will be dying in US and rest of the world. So obviously that's not a realistic idea. The two pictures that I have put it in here is to give you some idea how difficult it is, for some patient to go through this. This is our intensive care unit. You can see all the life supports for their IVs, for their breathing, the lung machine that I was talking about, the dialysis machine. So there is a lot of people who go through this critical illness. So natural infection to achieve immunity is not a viable option at all. So what we do, we have two options. One is we don't get exposed to the virus, right? You prevent exposure. That's what we're doing currently, social distancing. We're wearing the mask and we're washing our hands. We're avoiding all the gatherings. But that's not a long-term solution either. Despite all this thing, some of us is going to be exposed. Many of my colleagues actually been exposed in the hospital and get infected. Some of doctors even died rest of the world, including US. So that's where we need the vaccine from effective vaccine. Once you get exposed so that you don't get the infection, your body protect you. So we will talk about the vaccine itself. However, I think it is important to understand some basic concept, what the virus is, what is it doing, and then how our body responds to this virus to understand the whole concept of the vaccine and how effective it is. So what happened is, this is the coronavirus. It enters our body cell and it releases its genetic structure that we talked about, the RNA. Once this RNA is released, it multiplies and makes multiple copies, and it uses our body machinery to make multiple viruses, and those come out and infects more cells. The other structure that this virus has, like the spike protein that I told you, that is the protein that virus uses to attach to the cell, they are made by other machinery called messenger RNA. So this is basically a genetic code. This is just a message. For example, if you are in a war, in a battle, to have your soldier fight the enemy, you need to send them a code. That's what they need to do. This messenger RNA is like a messenger. It sends the code to the machinery to produce this protein. The vaccine idea came from here. If we don't use the virus as a whole, but if we can use this message for our body to make the protein only, nothing else, then you can get the immunity without getting the infection. So how our body responds to this virus? This is a complex looking slide, but I'm going to walk you through to make it as very simple to understand. So what happened is, once the virus attached to the body cell, it requires very specific, unique kind of shape of structure called receptor. It's like a puzzle. Like, if you're solving a puzzle, you have to have a match. So once the virus finds this match in our lung tissue, for example, it attaches here. And most of the target for therapeutic, for vaccine, is actually against this spike protein. If you can block it here, then it does not cause the infection. If you have the antibody that already is ready, then you can prevent the virus to cause the infection. That's the idea. So what is the immunity that we talk about? Whatever the virus is doing to our body, and our body is making the immune cell, that's the same concept is used to make the vaccine. So once the virus enters the body, it activates our immune system. There's two different kinds of cell. Without going into details, as you heard about the cell, T cell and B cell, things like that, those are the cells that produce this Y-shaped, those bluish structure. These are called the antibody. This cell makes the antibody matches with this spike protein and prevent them from attaching to our cell and neutralize those viruses. So what happens is, after it does that, some of this cell then retain the memory how this virus looks. So those are called memory cell. This memory cell, what happens is, they retain this information for years. For example, for other viruses, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, they can actually retain those memories. So anytime it sees the virus again, instead of waiting for a day, 7 days, 10 days, they immediately start making those, ammunition called antibody, or, to neutralize this virus. This is the concept that is used to make the vaccine to protect ourselves. So this slide is from WHO. This is a very simple scheme, how the vaccine works. So what happened, for example, measles, influenza, and chickenpox. Once we get the vaccine, we have the antibody which matches with this receptor that used. And anytime we are exposed to this virus again, they come and protect us. For COVID-19, for example, it's a new pathogen. We have no antibody. So if we get the infection, we can get the antibody. But in the vaccine, what happened is, it just uses a little particle like the spike protein that we are going to talk about more. Our other panelists will talk. This spike protein is given to us in different way so that our body make the antibody without getting infected. So once the virus is coming to attack us, this antibody will neutralize this virus. So that's how we are immuning or protecting ourselves. So if one person is protected, few person is protected in this picture, there are some other people who may not be able to get the vaccine, but because of the virus require people to survive, if you have enough people who cannot be infected, the virus eventually will not be able to infect the other community persons. That's where the other, the speaker will talk about the platform and everything else about the vaccine. I just want to touch base about the couple of vaccines that we have today in US approved, the vaccine that are depending on the messenger RNA. So this protein, as I said, the spike protein is made by signal or code coming from the messenger RNA. That messenger RNA is used to develop this vaccine, and Pfizer and Moderna got the approval for those two vaccines. The couple of slides that I would like to give you some idea what is this vaccine and how their efficacy and safety issue, and then we'll move on to the other part of the talk about the vaccine. So the efficacy of the Moderna vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, sorry, is about 95%. In this vaccine trial, they have actually had about 43,000 participants. And once they reached about 170 cases, they showed that the people who did not get the vaccine, about 162 of them get the infection. People who get the vaccine, about 8 of them get the infection. So it was about 95% effective. And people who get the vaccine, only 1 of them actually had the severe disease. On the other hand, about 9 people in the people who did not get the vaccine get the severe disease. So to prevent a severe disease, it was about almost 100% effective. Moderna had about 30,000 participants. And in their vaccine trial, they showed that in the people who did not get the vaccine, 185 out of the 196 people got infection. On the other hand, the people who get vaccine, only 11 of them get the infection. None of these 11 actually had severe disease. On the other side, 30 of the people, 30% who, 30 of the participants who did not get the vaccine get the severe disease. So that's what it tells is very, very effective vaccine. Most of the time, you don't get even a 50%, 60% effectivity for most of the vaccine that we use. For example, flu. Sometimes even 30% of the time you get the right vaccine for the flu. So this is a very effective vaccine, both of these. Now, the safety concern comes with any other vaccine, right? People are saying, how come we have this vaccine so quickly? How do you know if it is safe? The technique that that has been used to develop this vaccine is not completely new within the last few years. The messenger RNA technique has been studied since 1990s. We have almost close to 30 years of study going on this. This same technique has been used to develop other vaccines, including influenza, Zika, HIV, and rabies, as well as treat the cancer, and they are actually in the clinical trial. The messenger RNA that we are having in the vaccine, this is not actually exact messenger RNA taken into the virus. This actually the genetic code from the virus that is used to develop this, messenger RNA in the lab by some modification. It does not go to our nucleus where our genetic structures like DNA. So it does not affect our genetic structure. It is not causing any change in our human race. Once it instructs our cell to make this spike protein that is needed for body to make the antibody, this messenger RNA is actually processed and destroyed by our body cell mechanisms. It's not causing the creation of the virus, it's just creating the protein, not the actual virus. So it's not going to cause any infection. So the safety issue has been studied during the trial. I just want to highlight this slide here. So most patients that get the vaccine after the first dose, about 2 to 3% only experience some pain at the injection site, some fatigue, headache, and muscle pain. These are mild to moderate symptoms after the first dose, about only 2 to 3%. And it only lasts for 1 to 2 days. In Moderna vaccine, after the second dose, they had a little bit more severe this local side effect as well as some systemic effect, but it was still less than 10%. When I say that some severe means they just felt sick, not like severe to the point they needed treatment, right? And lasted only for 1 to 2 days. And it is thought that this symptom tells you that your body is actually responding to the vaccine by producing the immunity. But look at the comparison. As Dr. Shazad said, the devastating effect of the COVID-19 disease. So this red is disease itself. There is 312,000 deaths as of yesterday, right? There is no death from the vaccine. People who had recovered after the infection, in some study 30%, in some study even 50 to 60, even 80% of them said that they continue to have fatigue, difficulty breathing, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, having memory problem, post-traumatic stress disorder for several months, up to 3 to 6 months now, people are suffering. So if you have to take the disease or if you have to take the vaccine, which one you would choose, right? That's what the comparison tells us. So as you can hear from the news and so on, there has been some serious allergic reaction reported from UK. There's 2 patients, and in US there has been about 3 to 4 cases where there has been some concern about allergic reaction. So like any other vaccine, any other antibiotic, or any other therapy that you take for cholesterol to any other diabetic medication, there is always a risk of getting some serious side effect. It is estimated that from this vaccine, we may see 1 to 2 cases per million recipients once we vaccinate around the world, billions of people. So considering the disease, where so many people are getting infected, the side effect of this vaccine is considered very insignificant. And then obviously CDC is going to monitor. You can go into their website called VAERS and report any kind of side effect. CDC also launched a smartphone app called VSAF. You can monitor, report any kind of side effect. And then if somebody develops a side effect, serious injury, and if they have to go through the treatment, there is a federal program called Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. You can report there, and they may, depending on the criteria and eligibility, help to compensate for any kind of injury that might happen through this vaccine. So that's my last slide. So the message I wanted to give you is this is a very effective and safe vaccine as of now. The benefit definitely outweighs the risk that comes with this vaccine. When you compare the COVID-19 disease itself, it is absolutely insignificant, the risk. And this is what I did. I'm a board-certified infectious disease and internal medicine doctor. I have myself taken the vaccine. The reason I have taken it, I want to lead by example, like many other physicians, like Dr. Shazad and my daughter. She also got the vaccine. The science is, important. It matters. And obviously, I'd like to keep my family and community safe and move into, regular life before this pandemic take more toll on us. And until then, even if you take the vaccine, we should all continue to practice social distancing, and we need to wear masks, wash our hands, and avoid any non-essential gathering to protect ourselves, our family, and our community. With that, I'd like to thank, and I hope this will clarify some of this concern and question you had, and we'll go, we can answer some other things in the question and answer session. Thank you all. Jazakallahu khair.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Tabriz, for that very informative review of the science of the vaccine, especially the part about herd immunity. So next up, we're joined by Dr. Kamal Al-Bissati. He is a molecular parasitologist and geneticist with a PhD from the University of Pierre and Marie Curie in Paris. His research interests include the engineering and designing of vaccines and the development of rapid antigen tests. He holds 5 US patents on various vaccines, and he expanded his scientific career at the Biodefense Center of Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York, and became an assistant professor of the Chicago Medical School in 2011. He's a Fulbright scholar, an affiliate professor, and a reviewer for the NIH, for the Italian Ministry of Health, and for the National Science Foundation of Poland. Lastly, he is the head of vaccine development of COVID SAPN vaccine in a small and upcoming company. So I would like to welcome you in, Dr. Bissati.
You hear me? Very good. So it's great news to have eight vaccines that have been approved for full or limited use. I think this is very important because making vaccine is very challenging, and I will explain why it's challenging. So by 2 examples. So the first example, that we and others have been working for many years with to make a vaccine for malaria. So malaria kills one child every 30 seconds. So over 1 million children killed by malaria each year. And until now, we have only one vaccine that is available in Africa that is working only, is low efficacy with only 30 to 35%. This is my first example. The second one is, there are some diseases like HIV, hepatitis C, or leishmania, that we don't have vaccine after many years of research. So that's why I think that we should be proud that our scientists or our scientific community or the government worked hard to have these vaccines available. I understand that there are some skepticism and fears with people that they're asking why these vaccines are too rushed and maybe they are not safe. I agree that that were developed quickly, but we have to know one thing, as Dr. Tabriz just mentioned, that I think for the first time that all companies gather their efforts to use their platforms that are available and adjust it or adapt it to this COVID vaccine. We have different platforms that were used for cancer, for different diseases, but were adjusted to this pandemic. And this is what I will try to show you in my slides, all the platforms that were used for this pandemic. So you have just like to know that once we have the genetic sequence of the virus available, that's only a few days after the first infection in Wuhan in China. Immediately after that, the scientists or pharmaceutical companies start working on a prototype vaccine. It took for them only 2 months. So we have a few days to have the genetic sequence of the virus, and 2 months to have a prototype vaccine that was ready to go to human clinical trials. And the technologies that we had are traditional technologies that it's mostly using the whole parasite, and the new technologies that we called plug and play. That I will show it to you later. So the first one that we will go is like it's called inactivated vaccines. So what we did here is we grow the virus. We grow the virus in cell culture, and we inactivate by chemical. So the virus is completely killed. So the characteristic of this technique, it's like these killed viruses are not highly immunogenic. So that's what we need to add to them some adjuvant. And the adjuvant that we use here is alum. This is known adjuvant that was used in 1920s, and it's safe. It does not. It was used for many vaccines like flu vaccine. And we have different companies, mostly Chinese companies, that are using this technique of inactivated vaccine, like Sinopharm or like Sinovac. There's also one company, is the only Western company that is in France, it's called Valneva, that's using this technique. The other one is called attenuated vaccine. So here the virus is live. So it can replicate, but it's very weak. The advantage of this technique is these attenuated viruses are highly immunogenic. So we don't need to use adjuvant with them. And we can make them either genetically by integrating or deleting some sequence of the virus, or chemically, or by heat. And there is this company called Codagenics that's using this technique. So in this slide, what I want to show you that the viruses for traditional vaccine platform, we used whole organism, whole virus. So now what we'll try to do, it's just like we're not interested with the whole virus. We'll take only what is important, what is highly immunogenic, in this virus. And this is what we will put in these platforms. As you can see here, I show it here with it's in red, it's called spike protein. And as Dr. Tabriz just mentioned, that this protein is very important to let the virus attach to the cell, and that the virus can enter to the cell. And the idea is like we want that the host or the body makes some antibodies that can neutralize this virus and then kill completely this virus. So here we'll talk about, we have different platforms. We have recombinant protein vaccines. So we took proteins and we mix them with an adjuvant. We are not handling live viruses. And that's what exactly this company called Novavax that is using. The famous platform, the second one is mRNA vaccines. This is what was used by Moderna and Pfizer. We have to say that this is the first experience with the mRNA vaccine in the vaccine. So because this technique was used in cancer, and just we adapt this one for vaccine. This is very important. So we don't know too much things about this technology in the vaccination field. So what we did is just like we have a synthetic mRNA that is surrounded by lipid. Here we have lipid nanoparticles. Mostly they are just layers of phospholipids. The idea to have these phospholipids just like to keep the stability of this RNA. And you have to know that this mRNA will go to the cytoplasm, will not go to the nucleus. So there is no interaction with this platform with the nucleus. It will go to the cytoplasm and will express these proteins. This mRNA is unstable in cytoplasm, and then we have enough protein that can be seen by the body to make antibodies and neutralize like the virus later on. The third platform that I want to describe it called adenovirus. So this one is different than mRNA vaccine because this is a virus. This is a virus that was isolated from animals. So example, here we are talking example about AstraZeneca or Oxford. They're using adenovirus, it's called adenovirus 26, that is isolated from chimpanzee. And what they did, they took that spike protein again and just clone it to this DNA. And then this is how it works. So this adenovirus will go to the nucleus and then will express this protein, and then how we can have some antibodies. So AstraZeneca said that this adenovirus, once it's in the nucleus, will not incorporate, will not integrate into the chromosome. Okay. Other one, it's called, it's the same also. So we have adenovirus 5 also. We have example for Russian, they are using adenovirus 5 and 26. So we have all the mix of these adenovirus that were used by this company. And we have one that is used Merck. I think it's in clinical phase 1. They're using adenovirus, but this one will replicate into the nucleus. Okay. And the last one that I want to emphasize is DNA virus. This one is very, very stable, easy to produce, and it will go to the nucleus, will replicate over there. But just like this one that's used by Inovio, use an electroporator to get that DNA in the nucleus. Just we have to know that this is a field that now is like moving really. It's like a high speed, and we are taking also advantages from some nanoparticles vaccine platforms. So these nanoparticles were used for the drug delivery, for example, against cancer, and now we are trying to use them for vaccine. So for drug delivery, the role to use them is for just to minimize the toxicity and maximize the drug efficacy. So here we have some polymeric nanocarriers. These are, I can see these particles are very, very small in nanomolar range. and they mimic the structure of virus. And we have some studies that use these polymeric nanocarriers for hepatitis B vaccination. Lipid nanocarriers, we mentioned about that. We mentioned about Pfizer and Moderna. They use these lipids. These lipids, we know, just phospholipids that they are surrounding what is inside. So you can put anything what is inside and try to keep the integrity of your antigen of what you have inside. The last one is metal and inorganic nanocarriers. These are metals that also were used a lot in cancer. And then we can take advantage of these metal nanocarriers for the delivery of our vaccine. I want just quickly to mention exactly the work that we have been doing also for this COVID. This is another platform for vaccine, for the delivery of the vaccine. This is a protein. So the idea here, we took, again, just a spike protein. This is only one protein that we take. We plug it in a scaffold here. And then once you plug it, just let the protein assemble by itself. At one point, you have all these spike protein at the surface that can be seen by the body and then can make antibodies. And so these proteins are just like, it's very, very cheap. And then we can just produce them in bacteria without we don't need any sophisticated measures. This is my slides. What I want to say here is just like once you have all these prototype vaccines, well, the first thing to do is to do some preclinical trials. And mostly we look at the safety and the efficacy. And when we did these preclinical trials, usually we use animals. We use either like mice, hamsters, or monkeys. We look at if these prototype vaccines are toxic. If they are toxic, immediately we stop. And then we start to go from the beginning, look again at our spike protein, take half of it or whole spike protein, and adjust our protocols. If we didn't see any toxicity, then we can look at antibodies that were produced by this animal and look for neutralizing antibodies. If you have good neutralizing antibodies, so then we go to human clinical trials, and I think my Dr. Bourdi will cover this aspect. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Bissati, for the great overview on how the vaccine comes to fruition. So as for our final panelist, we have Dr. Mohammed Bourdi, PhD in pharmacotoxicology from the Paris School of Pharmacy with more than 20 years of toxicology research at the NIH. Additionally, he has more than 6 years of experience in drug development and drug regulation at the NIH, the FDA, and pharma industry. He is a certified toxicologist by the American Board of Toxicology, the UK, and the European Register of Toxicologists. Dr. Bourdi received several NIH scientific awards, and he is leading a toxicology class for medical and postdoctoral students at the NIH. He is the former president of the Moroccan American Society for Life Sciences, and at present, he is a senior toxicologist at a pharma company in Maryland. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bourdi. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the invitation, and happy to be with you. Is the slide shared now? Okay, so I saw many questions already here, and I will be almost like answering some of them because of the presentation. Some of them will be about long-term effects, how long it takes to get a vaccine, talking about why take it now when we don't know how it's going to happen in the future. So this question will be answered while I'm going through the slides. Right. Okay, so here I'm going to start with talking about the stages that a general drugs go through before get approved. So on the left side, you see that for 5 to 10 years, you can read it on the bottom, and you can see on the right side, there's normal situation, and under it is COVID vaccine that is now in the process. So basically, you need like 5-10 years to do animal tests, to do in vitro testing, and do all the animal tests that FDA is requiring. And that's, I mean, there's a lot of 5-10 years, but there's like, it takes at least 2 years to 3 years to do the animal studies that the FDA is requiring. So basically, after you finish all these animal studies, then you apply for what's called an IND, which is an investigation on new drug application. And you put to FDA, and then FDA see all the data that you have from animal studies. From the animal studies, you can have what kind of dose you're going to be in human, what is going to be tolerated, how we can start with those you want. After the FDA approve that, they may be put on hold if they see some side effect in animal they don't want to see. If it's approved, then we go to phase 1. Phase 1, it takes 10 years, usually a small number of people volunteer, not sick. And then if everything is okay, then we move to phase 2. And phase 2, there is a little bit larger number of people, about 100. And at the same time, you look at the risk, and you can look at the first phase 1 is mainly about the risk, about safety. The phase 2, we talk about, because the number is growing, we have 100 people or plus, then we look at the safety. At the same time, we see if there is any efficacy. And then that's going to take at least 10 years. Then you move to, if it's safe and everything is, we see some efficacy, we move to phase 3. And then in phase 3, you have 1,000 to 30,000, sometimes more, depending on the drug. And this one by itself is 3 years. So, and then once all this taken together, at the same time when we are in phase 2 and phase 3, the company is testing also the animal for carcinogenicity, if the drug is making them induce a cancer. And this is happening in phase 2, phase 1 and phase 2. And when you are in testing animal, because the carcinogenicity is a long study, the same thing for to see if the drug have any impact on pregnant animal or fertility. So it started usually after starting the phase 1, because these are long studies and they don't want to wait too long. So basically after phase 3, then the company is sending the application. It's called NDA, new drug application, and then the FDA look at all the data again, the animal as well as human, and check if there is anything to worry about. And then from there, and they see the efficacy, they see the safety and everything. Many companies, they have their drug fail on phase 3 because they tested in animal, there's efficacy, and it tests in human phase 3 with large number, then they say, oh, the drug is not as efficient. So you are not lucky, and everything drops after spending millions of dollars. So if the FDA approves the drug, then you move to, it gets approved, it gets distributed. It could be a vaccine, it could be a drug. And then there is phase 4, which is the FDA, as well as the pharmacy company, as well as the medical doctor, trying to monitor the drug for years. And anyone that see anything happening with that drug, it has to report it to FDA. And the FDA can decide to take the drug out of the market after a few weeks or few days or few months or few years after it has been in the market. And some companies, and some people may sue the pharmacy company if they see something that supposed not to see because for any reason. That could be discussed elsewhere. But anyway, looking at the normal situation, you have 5 to 10 years in animal, then 10 years to get to a clinical trial. Altogether, this may be sometime 10 to 20 years from starting point to the end and approval of the drug. But here we are in different situation. We have people already dying. We have already a lot of stress on the medical community. We have a lot of stress on the economy. So we're trying to see if we can make it faster. So basically in the COVID-19 vaccine, the animal studies that's supposed to be in 5-10 years, it's happened about in 6 months, at least for Moderna and Pfizer. The reason is because we know a lot about the virus. We know a lot about how to make the virus. If it was a small molecule, like let's say we're going to make a drug like Tylenol or a new drug that is chemical, that will take a long time. You cannot just jump on step 1 to step 2, step 3, because we don't know about the chemicals. It's something called xenobiotics, something that the body is not familiar with. But when it comes to vaccine, we know the vaccine, we know what the content, we know the long-term and the short-term effects in general. Of course, there's always some surprise, but in general, we know the vaccine. So basically, it's quicker. If you know the sequence of the virus, then it's quicker to make to do animal testing. So animal testing, you give a lot of higher dose than human. For example, for the Sinopharm that the vaccine killed, they gave almost 9,000-fold more virus than the human. So basically, they want to see how much the animal can tolerate. If you go higher, is it going to be some weird side effect? And even going to 9,000-fold, they didn't see much on the animal. So basically, like I said, after the animal part, it takes 6 months to 9 months, depending on which vaccine made by which company, because there are some companies they are still in phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3. So after that, the company quickly jumped to the phase 2 and 3. Sometimes they combine them together, so they go faster. Because they, like I said, we are running out of time, and there's a lot of people getting, they die. There are people very severe condition, they have issues, they may stay sick for a long time after getting the virus. So basically, that took also like 6 to 9 months, depending on the vaccine, for getting clinical trial. And that's kind of people don't worry about how long why it's taken too fast. But the idea is we know the virus, and we have been following the same path, the similar vaccine in the past. So basically, now we don't have time to wait for years to see if there's side effects. We have, because 95% of the side effects, you can see them in the first 2 months. And then long time effect is the one maybe people are worried about, is something we're going to be monitoring after the vaccine is approved. So in the logistics, there's also a big problem, because usually in drug regulation, FDA, you cannot start making a huge number, high scales of the vaccine or the drug if it's not approved. Then you cannot even distribute it. But because of the COVID-19, we were running out of time. The government put a lot of money to make sure that the company is making right now, even before it gets approved, to make the drug and be ready to distribute it, because they don't want to wait until it gets approved, and they may take 6 months for distribution, because we are talking about billions of doses around the world. So basically, in this case, you can see that at the top level, this is a regular way how we have a vaccine, test in animal. For animal, you have an IND, submission to FDA, then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It goes from 1 to 3 years, depending on the drug. And then you have BLA, which is the biologics, the kind of vaccine license application. And then the FDA review everything, and then they approve for large scale production. In case of COVID, we have the animal testing. Quickly, we jump to approval after, because we know what is safe in animal after a few weeks of treatment. Then we have phase 2 and phase 3 almost combined together, because we're trying to accelerate everything. By the time we are at phase 3, we already start producing the large scales of the drug, because the government already pay for it, and we don't want to take any risk to wait until a few months it's approved. So basically, then on the top, you have up to 15 years for making a drug, and on the bottom, you have about 10 months, sometime, maybe for some companies, it may take 1 year or 1.5 years. So basically, that shows you that we are like how we're making short, but at the same time, the FDA is watching everything. And also the European and Japanese and all international regulatory agencies are watching the vaccine and making sure everything is going the right path, and each step is controlled and each step is measured quickly. So if you look at, for example, in the US, on the left side, these are the vaccine that US bought in advance, because they didn't know 4 months, 5 months, 6 months ago, which one will be efficient, how much is going to be efficiency. And on the right side, you see, around the world, how much they bought in advance before even knowing the efficacy, because of the experience we have. Sometimes you cannot develop a vaccine. We are lucky to have many vaccine working. As of now, we don't have vaccine for hepatitis C. We don't have vaccine for HIV. So a lot of viruses, because they are very complicated, it's hard to make a vaccine. But here, thanks God, with the COVID, the efficacy was good, and the companies are having lots of success. So basically, the US have ordered 500 million doses from AstraZeneca, and also have 110 from Novavax, which is a company that's making 2 vaccines, the corona vaccine with the flu vaccine together. So people can take them as one shot, so they're going to be safe for, hoping to be not disturbed or get scared because of the what's going on. And then there is the Sanofi, have also 100 million, then Pfizer, and then Johnson & Johnson and Moderna. So that was at the beginning how much they ordered, but then because Moderna and Pfizer were the first one to get approved, then the US is starting with those. And then on the left side, you can see that India is ordering 1.6 billion, European Union 1.4. For example, Canada is ordering almost 358 million, although this is 10 times more what the population of the Canada. But as I told you, nobody knows or knew at that time which vaccine will be successful. So everybody is trying to get as many as possible, different combination of vaccine to be ready. So basically, to compare the two vaccines, since we are in the US and we try the one going to be used at the beginning is Pfizer and Moderna, you can see on the left side the Pfizer characteristics, and on the right side the Moderna. And in between, you can see the thing they have in common. So the complex part of Pfizer is that need to be at -70 degrees Celsius. Our freezer at home is -20. So you need something very, very, because the mRNA is unstable and it gets degraded quickly. So you have to keep it at the high. For this one that made by Pfizer, it has to be -7. The same time, you're going to have 21 days after between the second treatment. It's going to be distributed by the two major companies, UPS and FedEx. And at the beginning, they're going to be 2.5 million doses distributed in the US, and then they're going to be second part and third, etc. On the Moderna, they're going to need about, the temperature is only -20, which is like a very acceptable. The dose between the first and second one is 28 days, and then it's going to be distributed by McKesson, another company, and they're going to be making 6 million the first part. The thing they have in common is that they have the cost is very common. The dose, they are also having both two doses, and both of them have mRNA. The side effects, I'm going to talk about them, and some of our colleagues already have mentioned. So the issues here, people are refusing or having issues with vaccine, and the reason why that after a survey made by the HCSE is that the main questions that people are afraid of, the main issue is that 24% of the people who were asked, they think that the vaccine is not going to be safe enough. So that's the one part. And this is important that we have this discussion today, is trying to explain why what the situation, why we think, and FDA think, and expert think that at least at the first part is it's safe, because of what we know about the vaccine and what we know for many years of using the vaccine. The second part, 21%, is that people are concerned about side effects, which is like the same thing about safety. Basically, 50% people are afraid of safety. Then the 14%, they believe that COVID is not that dangerous, so why should I take a vaccine, especially if I'm high risk? And this is one of the questions some colleagues ask, but we don't know. So there are young people that get the virus and get sick and get killed. So you are not 100% sure it's going to be among the safest people. So people reject the vaccine for principle because they think that this is for religious reason, of any reason, and they reject it, 11%. And then you have those who but they think of nature will do its work, and let's God do his parts, or people get sick, whoever died, and we'll survive. But the problem we're having is, and here we talk about, the main thing that we're trying to pass on today is that catching COVID is more risky than getting a vaccine. That's the fact from many studies, from many experts. And the benefit of getting the vaccine is far outweighed the potential risk of the COVID. So if you are looking at the side effects of the COVID for the Moderna vaccine, from Moderna and Pfizer, and my colleague already mentioned part of it, there is two categories of side effects. There's mild and short-term, which are short-term effects, and you can see them quickly. And then there is severe side effects, and these can be long-term effects, maybe years from now. And usually it comes with some kind of allergy, some kind of autoimmune disease, but these are rare case, and we cannot tell right now because there are people dying right now, and we cannot wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, and like you used to do for vaccine, and wait until millions of people die. So generally, it takes the first 2 months, you can, for the Pfizer and Moderna, they saw some side effects, which is like 3.8 for Pfizer, 3.8% of recipient felt fatigue, 2% experience headache, and some preliminary, an ordinary effect that's usually seen in the vaccine. The same thing for Moderna, you have different statistics, but nothing severe at this point. Here, that's the question that people are asking about long-term effects. So you can see that in the regular side, that you can see the top, we are in the regular years. W is year 1 to year 10. And usually that the pharmaceutical company, the FDA, trying to watch at phase 4 after the distribution, after phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, after 10 years, then they approve the drug, and then they start watching. Now it's different because we cannot wait 10 years. And so basically the phase 4 which is 10 years after approval of the drug. It started almost at year 2, almost at that year 2. So I have so basically in year 2 you have phase 4, and this phase 4 we have to keep watching the vaccine and people that took it for some time to make sure it's safe. Because like I said, we cannot wait for 10 years to get the vaccine. But at least from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 that we have, it looks like it's safe. So the vaccine is on the market. Doesn't mean that's it. We forget about the patient. It doesn't mean that not everything is done. No, we still have FDA is going to be following step by step, making sure that it's still safe. Is always that we have the benefit is higher than the risk. That's very critical. As soon as any vaccine that we saw that there is more risk than benefit, they're going to stop it. So they're going to generate a lot of data, a lot of questions that people are asking now online. I mean, the still FDA is going to be waiting and to get some percentage of people treated, and we have the answer. So we're going to estimate the efficacy exactly, because now more you have a number of people large, more you can tell about the efficacy on the drug, especially the efficacy among those who are high risk. So at the same time, you can see that how long is going to be after the vaccine, how long people are going to be protected. It's going to be 6 months, it's going to be 1 year. Some people are asking, do I need to have third treatment? We don't know right now. Maybe after a year from now, if maybe we need it, if the virus is changing like the flu vaccine. But as of now, it's only 2 dosage. So also they by taking this vaccine, I mean, the FDA and the company will be taking a lot of samples from some people and doing some searching for biomarkers, for side effects, and looking at a lot of things while they are working on, while people are dosed with the vaccine. So the monitoring is never going to end. Any side effects are going to be watched quickly, carefully, and then the FDA and the doctors, the physicians, the hospitals, and the pharmaceutical company will be reporting any details. I mean, you cannot imagine how much is like even like boring details. Sometimes the FDA have to request from all these pharmaceutical companies. They should not hide anything. And that's why it's a good thing. I mean, we cannot like just say, okay, I'm getting the vaccine and that's it, and think like it's going to be okay. Now, for my conclusion, we think that there is an issue why taking the vaccine now and that we don't know the large side effects. Don't forget that medical error in the US have been estimated to be the third number of deaths in the US because of the medical error. Is a third in the list after heart disease and cancer. Basically, in a study has shown that about 250,000 people died in the US each year because of medical error. Almost like 700 or 30, almost 700 a day, or 30 deaths an hour. This is in normal situation without COVID. Now imagine the stress that medical doctors, they themselves are dying. There are a lot of people having different health conditions. They cannot go to see the doctor because they are afraid of catching COVID over there. So a lot of people they don't know what's the reason of the disease. They don't want to see the doctor because they think of COVID and they get stressed. So basically, one have to put in perspective. We are not here to say that the vaccine is 100% efficient and 100% safe. We are saying that we have a situation that is very critical economically, socially, religiously, name it, all kind of thing, and the stress on the medical doctors, and people are dying daily. And all what you can say is at this time, the vaccine is more beneficial than not taking it. There's for the community, for the state, and for the world. At least at this stage, for the data we have available, they look like the vaccine is more useful to take and be overweight the risk that we are afraid of. So we are not saying that everything is perfect. I mean, we are not in a perfect situation now. We have people having 300,000 deaths in the US, and leave alone how much people get, like I said here, 250 million. Leave alone what kind of medical error will happen because of that situation. So basically, we have to work together and make sure that we are part of the solution and not part of the problem, but keeping the distancing, the mask, and even if you take the vaccine, it doesn't mean you are over, because some vaccine are 90%, some other 95%, some other maybe 70%. Are you part of the 90% or the 10%? So you have to be keeping the distancing, the mask, and making sure that even when you take the vaccine, it may take a month or plus to get immune system responding to it. So you have to be vigilant all the time until you get the vaccine and after you take the vaccine, because we are not safe until everybody is getting the vaccine and everybody is safe. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Bourdi, for the great run-through of how a vaccine is developed and given to the public, and how COVID vaccine process is a little bit different due to the emergency situation that we're in. So it goes without saying that that was a lot of great information and clarity that was taught to us by our panelists. So of course, a big thank you to all of the panelists. However, we're not done with you guys yet. Next up, we're going to open the floor for some Q&A. And as we can see, we've already got a great list of questions coming in from the attendees. So I'm actually going to hand it over now to Dr. Shazad, who will be handling the Q&A section.
Assalamu alaikum all. Excellent presentations, so informative, some of the things that I did not even know. So actually, I learned a lot from this presentation also. First of all, I would like to answer this question that I personally have taken this vaccine, as I'm pretty sure Dr. Tabriz and his daughter did, and the rest of the people did. My personal experience in there has been that I experienced some tenderness. It means pain at the site of the injection. I got a headache for almost 2 days, but I declined to take Motrin. Just for personal reasons, I did not take Motrin. But if I had taken Motrin, I am pretty sure this headache would have not been there. The third thing that I experienced was that I had a slight rise in body temperature. Apart from that, little cough, but nothing major. So I can personally attest to whatever I did. And some of the questions that I have received during this whole presentation, some of them have been answered in quite detail. But one question that has been asked a couple of times is, and I would actually read out these questions to you guys, and whoever can answer these questions, please take the lead and go ahead, and I will unmute myself and let you guys take over the floor for that question. Number one question, which is, when will people, like normal people, which are not frontline workers, receive this vaccine? The data that I have received is that there are almost 7,700 Boeing planes which have been deployed to deliver vaccine all over the world. 7,700. Since the commercial travel is okay, but the vacation travel is low right now, so most of the Boeings, as per yesterday, are being converted for delivery of vaccines and other products. And when will normal people receive it? As far as I know, March to April, everyone will receive it, but I can open this to the panelists to answer this question, first question, and then I will ask the rest of the questions. Any panelists, please go ahead and answer this question. Can any of the panelists hear me? Can you unmute yourself and just answer this question, please?
Can you answer the question again? Because someone called me from the group about the, can you tell the question again?
Yeah, the question that was asked is, number one, when will the normal people, I mean, the community will receive this vaccine? Number two, are there any animal products in this vaccine, like fetal bovine serum? Some people have reservations about that, whether it is halal or not. I mean, I don't want a fatwa on this one. I just want a general opinion on this one from the specialist. Any one of you can answer this question.
I think the brother Mohammed, the clinician, should answer this question, and then maybe Kamal will answer the second one.
I can ask the second one. Well, for fetal bovine serum, FBS, was used for decades, for like in 1940s, 50s, and was used to supplement the medium or the culture to grow the viruses. So this is something that was used for a long time and was safe. And also, I think it's, recently, or I think FDA and also some pharmaceutical companies like Thermo Fishers and others, I think just like add more restriction to see the origin of these FBS, for like, because what we said, for example, when we grow viruses, they don't like to kill them or to just to make them weak. we need to add a supplement. That's what we use, that fetal bovine serum. This is very important. But just I think right now, a lot of restrictions and a lot of measures that now were taken by FDA and also with different companies to make sure that FBS is safe, and we know also the origin of that.
Just to add one thing about the bovine serum, I think this is used only for growing the virus, but it's not part of the injection. So once you have the virus growing a lot, then you purify the virus and then you use it by itself with the adjuvant. So it's a very, very complicated.
We have to know that we are not using that FBS like adjuvant. It's just like to grow the viruses, and so adjuvant, something is different. So adjuvant is added to boost the immune response, and that we add once we have all either like virus or we have only like RNA or protein.
So in terms of the other part of the question, when the general population will get the vaccine, at this point, I don't have all the specific numbers, but as we all know, by spring, that's when they want to make sure most of the population gets a vaccine. So obviously with Moderna being approved, we'll see how soon they will deliver all this vaccine. First trial is obviously the healthcare workers and the long-term care facilities, the nursing homes and things like that. And then will be first responders. And then obviously it will be then to the general population. So the Pfizer vaccine requires the minus 70 degrees Celsius for preservation, but the Moderna can be stored in regular refrigerators. So that will open up the delivery much more easier in small centers and things like that. Now, in terms of the different component of the vaccine, obviously the other experts are more knowledgeable about that. I just wanted to add one point. The mRNA vaccine, the 2 vaccine that we have, this is basically preparing the nucleotide in the from the code that we have from the virus, and then it is delivered through the nanoparticle, which is basically lipid formulation, if I'm correct, right? So this is basically polyethylene glycol and different cholesterol and some potassium ion and different solution that does not have a lot of other adjuvant or anything like that.
So I see already a question that people are asking why we are having 2 doses and what's happened after 25 days, 28 days. So basically when you have a vaccine or any antigen or any virus or bacteria entering the body, it takes about almost 3 weeks for the immune system to build its reaction. So basically you have at the beginning, the first week, you have what's called innate immune response, which is the first attack that the immune system is trying to, like Brother Mohammed have shown, that the immune system start to react against the virus. But it takes time to build up the memory response, and we have the T cells and B cells. And that time they started producing a lot of antibodies and the memory. And since because in the vaccine, we don't put a lot of virus, so the virus gets killed, disappear quickly, it gets destroyed. But we want to send a second dose of vaccine. So the immune system will see it again and react strongly. So the efficacy will increase because the first time there is some response, the second time the immune system already saw it after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks or 4 weeks, then it's already available already. And then it's almost like you have a war. Sometimes you need the army to move on to place of war. But if you put already an army there and you have the war in the same place, the army is present and then they're gonna attack quickly. So basically the efficacy increase after you have the efficacy against the virus, it increases when you have the second injection. There is some question about, are we gonna have third injection? Nobody knows because it's suggested that maybe the antibodies stay in 6 months, 4 months, but there is still the memory, like Brother Mohammed talked about, is gonna stay for a long time. But we will know after long-time studies how long we're going to need it again, if you're going to need it yearly or not. That's the unknown questions.
Jazakallah khair, very good answer. And actually, these were 2 questions that should the vaccine be taken annually? And one very interesting question that came up, which actually, what a lot of conspiracy theories have been going around. Is this a man-made disaster or is it natural?
Is it what?
Is it a man-made disaster or is it a natural disaster?
As I initially talked about the coronavirus, the answer is in that study. So the coronavirus is known. There is human coronavirus 4 types. They call the common cold, and then we have the SARS and the MERS, and then SARS coronavirus 2. So there is genetic and phylogenetic study which actually trace back where this virus is originated. So as of now, all the science actually points towards that this is a natural virus that most likely jumped from the animal to the human. The way they do it, they mutate a little bit and then adapt the structure so that it can attach to the human cell. So this is obviously, there's a lot of genetic study in this science and technology that prove that this is not really a man-made disaster. This is a natural virus.
And the other question that was asked was, not asked, but I want you to clarify is, a lot of people have a fear that we are having microchips being inserted into us by this vaccine. And actually one of the brothers in this chat has made a very long comment saying that, you doctors are basically pushing for the vaccine. And there is, I will read his actual comments. He said that I disagree with you that the risk is worth it. You don't have enough data to make this conclusion. You are vaccine pushers and you also may be held accountable for fear mongering. You are seeing the worst cases daily. That's not the norm. And I am disappointed with my fellow Muslim doctors who are followers rather than leaders here, focused on good health and nutrition. Watch your weight and you are much less likely to have complications for this disease. I would like this brother to come and volunteer with us in the ICU for the next 5 or 7 days. And then inshallah, he will get the answers to all these questions. And then the other question that was asked.
If I can make one comment, because he said, talking about experts. So far I didn't see a group of experts that come up and say, oh, the vaccine is going to be dangerous and the risks are higher than benefit. FDA, when they have the committee a couple months ago and a few weeks ago from Moderna, they have almost between 20 to 30 experts around the world and the US, the top experts on the field. And they have one day, the whole day discussion. And they have a vote. And the only restriction, for example, I watched the one for Pfizer. The only restriction they have is for the Pfizer, they are saying that the vaccine is good from 16 to higher, I think it's 85 or something. And some pediatricians saying we cannot use it for 16, we have to limit it to 18. And they voted against it just because of this 2 years difference. That means that everybody agrees that the vaccine is the best option. Going back to the question of a conspiracy, there are, of course, we don't think that is made on purpose, but we know that in Wuhan, the US and European were planning to develop vaccines against coronavirus because they know it's very dangerous. It can hurt people in respiration. And Obama and Bush and all the leaders was asking for billions of dollars to work on this before it happened. They put the money in the Chinese hand, and in Wuhan, there is a big lab working on that. A couple of years before, I think 2018 or 19, a group of scientists went there and they were not happy with the conditions that this lab was in. They don't have high standard of quality controls and all these precautions that's supposed to have. But my feeling is that it's not something done on purpose because there's an international conspiracy to kill people, but it could be a mistake during this research about this virus. Some virus could be leaked out by mistake, but it's not something that's done on purpose because no one will benefit from it. Chinese will not benefit, the Europeans, the Americans, and no one will benefit. So everybody gets hurt. So why there is a rationale to think about this conspiracy?
Okay, one more question. Should we insist on Moderna vaccine or Pfizer vaccine?
So, the difference between the two vaccines is not that many other than technical differences. The efficacy, as we talked about, 95% about both. The side effects are mild in both. The data that came about adverse reaction is a little bit more in Pfizer because it started distributing and vaccinating earlier. So we have a couple of cases of serious allergic reaction. In the Moderna vaccine, obviously, we'll see what happened down the line, right? So at this point, there is no preference one or the other. Both are effective, both are safe, whatever available. But there's another question I see whether you can combine one vaccine and the other vaccine. That's not recommended. You should stay with the same vaccine type. If you get the Pfizer first dose, you should get the second dose Pfizer. Same thing. If you get the Moderna first dose, you should get the second dose Moderna. There's a couple of other data that we have between the two viruses. The Pfizer vaccine, we don't have any data whether it prevents the spreading of infection in asymptomatic people. Means if you get the vaccine, we know that it prevents the disease, it prevents the severe disease, but we don't know from Pfizer vaccine whether actually it protects from getting an infection and from spreading it. For Moderna vaccine, they had limited data that it actually protects from even asymptomatic infection. So that might help. We don't have the details because that needs, checking patients, everybody who get the vaccines to see if they have the virus or not. That data will come down the line. The other thing I'd like to add about why you need the first dose and second dose and what happened after the first dose, I just wanted to add, there is data for Moderna as well as the Pfizer. After the first dose, when they looked at the immunogenicity and protection, they found that about 50 to 52% of the population who received the vaccine had protection even at the after the first dose. And after the second dose, when the protection went up to 95% in the Pfizer vaccine. So obviously there is some protection, but protection increases after the second dose. That's why you need the two doses.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Very good answer. And then there is one more question, which I think is very important. Food allergies, intolerances, pregnancy, are these vaccines safe?
Should I go ahead and answer, or if somebody else wants to answer that, who do you want to?
Go ahead, go ahead.
All right. So the allergic reaction that happened in UK and in America for the Pfizer vaccine, I was in actually IDSA and CDC conference yesterday where they updated the information. So as of yesterday, there was about like 175,000 vaccine was vaccinated at the time I attended the conference. And there was about a total of 6 allergic reaction. The allergic reaction that they are telling me is people who have allergy to different vaccine before, or whatever the component in this current vaccine, they actually have the information, what kind of component is in the ingredients. If you have known allergy to the vaccine before, or severe anaphylaxis, life-threatening reaction to the intravenous drug in the past, whether it's a vaccine or medication, things like that, those are supposed to be extra cautious. They're not saying that you cannot take it, but you need to tell the provider so they have the extra measures like EpiPen and things like that in case allergic reaction to happen. Food allergy and other oral medication allergy is not contraindication. I myself have some allergy to medication and so on. I have taken the vaccine. The second part is the pregnancy and lactation. The pregnancy, the data is not there. We don't have the human data, obviously. The animal data, as Dr. Bourdi said, that is ongoing. We will have the result whether there is any teratogenicity, but based upon the mechanism, the way the vaccine works, it is supposed to be safe. So it's not a contraindication. What CDC and IDSA has taken this stand, it's not put it in the recommendation officially as of yesterday, what we discussed, is if the infection rate in the community is high and the pregnant person is in that community, the benefit obviously outweighs any risk from the vaccine. So they are recommending that, yes, they should consider taking after consultation. Lactation is actually much more safer because the RNA is not going to be in the breast milk. The nanoparticle that they are used, they're also very dissolved and taken care of. So the lactation is much more easier. They said that, yes, lactating mothers should go ahead and take it and they don't have to stop breastfeeding.
Yeah, if I can add one thing, that for a choice between the vaccine, I don't think we're going to have a chance to select because the government is the one going to decide for the priorities, because we are not like in a luxuous situation where we can select from 4 or 5, because there is a lot of need and there's priorities, and the government will go prioritize which vaccine is going to go first, which one is going to get ready. And there's also international community who's waiting for the vaccine too. So the government will be the one deciding. The second, for the pregnancy, FDA already approved the drug for the pregnant women. Like I said, many people during the phase 3 will get pregnant and nothing happened to them during the process. So at least it shows from that side, there's no issue. For people that are afraid of allergy, you should also think about getting the coronavirus and while you have allergies, because well, it's better to have the vaccine where it's killed or denatured or small protein, than having the whole vaccine, having the whole virus, and then you have the maybe the side effects would be severe, because we saw people getting severe reaction. So basically, if you are taking the vaccine, for those of allergies, think about it. If you get the virus, well, as a whole virus, not only part of it. But at the end, you should discuss with your doctor, and he's the one going to say, okay, your condition is so and so, and I suggest to take it, not take it, or what kind of suggestion we have. It's they're going to be case by cases depending on severity of the allergy you have.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. One question that I have over here is, if you are a diabetic, do you have any increased risk of taking this vaccine?
So in the study, in the Pfizer and Moderna, they have a significant number of patients with multiple different comorbidity, including the diabetes. And not only that, they have actually included patients with HIV, which are controlled, with patient with hepatitis B and hepatitis C. They have only excluded severely immunocompromised patient, not controlled HIV and things like that. Yes, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, lung disease, hypertension, they're all included in the study. Not only that, different ethnic group, Latino, African American, minority, white, everybody was included in good proportionate number. So it is actually recommended you should go ahead and take it, because your risk of COVID disease and complication is much more higher when you have diabetes and other high comorbid condition.
Thank you. One more question. If somebody has COVID-19, can he get it again? And is it safe to take the vaccine if you already had the disease?
I mean, yeah, I mean, for someone who had already the disease, I mean, so you're asking the question, if someone had COVID, if he can take vaccine? I think it's like someone had, for example, flu vaccine, then take it another time. I mean, if you have the COVID, and then the only thing it should be better that you test first to make sure that how your response is going. But the doctors can say more about this, but it's I don't think I see a problem with that.
I think there is a specific guideline in regards to that, CDC. Let me clarify again. If you have COVID, many of healthcare workers, for example, currently the data for how long the natural COVID infection will protect you is unknown, because the disease itself is only about 10, 11 months. So the data, most of the data supports that within 90 days, you will have good enough protection. So it is recommended people who had COVID, they wait about 90 days, and then they consider taking the vaccine. Number one. Number two, I would like to make sure that we understand it. Right now, actually, it's not recommended to test your antibody if you had COVID, whether you should take the vaccine or not, because the natural infection protection is unknown, regardless of the antibody status. So the current stand is you don't have to check your vaccine, your antibody status. If you had more than 90 days, especially if you had comorbidity, you should go ahead and take it. It will increase your antibody production most likely and give probably longer protection than you had from the natural, although all this data need to be seen.
Thank you. One question which is also bothering me, and one of the participants also asked the question. Probably Dr. Bissati or Dr. Bourdi can answer this question. There is a new mutation that came out in England. So basically people are thinking that would this vaccine that you are administering right now, would that be effective against the new mutation?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think we don't know right now. So the one mutation that happened recently in UK, in fact, there are, I think, almost like 15 mutations that happened, and three of them happened in that S protein, that spike protein, and that's what is, I think, what is the concern right now. And what we know, that these three mutations that happened in that spike protein, we know exactly like what happened to them individually in animals. That's how they change, like the behavior of the virus, and the virus can propagate quickly. But we don't know exactly like all together in one virus what can be done. So I think it's something that's I think to watch. We don't have data right now, and right now, I think that variant of the virus propagates quickly, but we don't. But I think what can be alarming, it's like if it's highly virulent or not. That's what we don't want. That's we don't want to have a new virulent strain. I think that can be. But right now we don't have any data. What we have also, what we know exactly, just it propagates quickly, and I think if you have these 3 mutations, I think it probably will not affect your neutralizing antibodies that you have a vaccine, because once you are doing like the whole protein, and it's possible that's one mutation, because there is one, it's a deletion that it happened, and it's possible that it will not affect the that's part to be like your antibody can still know your protein. But you have to know.
And one thing that Dr. Mohammed represents about the immune system, when you have the vaccine is getting, or the virus getting in the body, then the protein of the protein that we are targeting, how it's happening, it takes the immune system take it and degrade it to pieces, and it's a long pieces many numbers of pieces. And these pieces, some of them may be coming from mutations, others may not come from mutation. So once the immune system see them, he's going to see a lot of pieces from the protein, spark protein. So hopefully when the antibody is reacting against spark protein, it's not reacting against one piece, it's reacting against a many called epitopes on the protein. And this way, when they react against a lot of them, maybe few antibodies will not react because they are mutation, but there will be other antibodies that are going to be reacting. So hopefully we'll know later, but at least we will know how much the new vaccine will be efficient against this mutation. And if we see a lot of mutation going on, then maybe gonna be like the flu vaccine. We have to get another vaccine later in the year, or against the new mutations. That's what we don't know yet now.
Thank you so much. Actually, I would give the floor over to Ms. Bithana Riashi, so she can open the floor to the participants and they can ask the questions directly.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, doctors, for the informative session, and thank you, Dr. Shazad. I think Sister Mira is next in line. She raised her hand, so I'm going to give her the okay to ask her question live, inshallah. Sister Mira, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, thank you for all your present for all doctor for this is benefit lectures. I have to ask that I know you told that the government decided what the priority vaccine take it even from Pfizer or from Moderna. My question, can we take it the both? I mean, we can take first this is, and then we can take another one, or should we take one? I know they told me she take one and they take the other one, the next first dose and next dose from the same. But how about if we want to take more? Then we can take another one also either, or just enough one?
I think it's not advised. I think it's not advised to mix the doses. And but there are some current studies right now by these companies to work on that. But just like I think they have just like to stick to one.
But I think at the same time that the government will not allow you to make a choice. Maybe a year from now, when we have a lot of people get vaccine and we have everybody get their vaccine, then we can have a choice and again select which one you want, if you want different ones. But at this stage, I don't think, because you know that the logistics, how much, like I show in the presentation, how much vaccine is prepared, we know exactly where it's going to go, what hospital, and exactly how many people is going to be tossed there. You cannot just let people decide, and then maybe 90% are going to choose Moderna, 10% Pfizer for any reason, and then we're going to be having a lot of waste because we already have made a lot of vaccine that everybody's waiting for. And if we give people a chance, they're going to be a big problem of logistics. But the government will have, okay, we're going to decide to make, since they are both of them safe, in the same way, the same efficacy, almost the same safety, then the government will decide, okay, this population is going to get this, the other population get that. The only other thing about the 21, 28 days, I mean, if you do it like 1 day or 2 days late or before, it's not going to make a big difference, but just an idea that that clinical trial was made on 21, on 28 days for the second dose. But you have to be fair that everybody is waiting for the vaccine, and we cannot like afford to have people select what they want, because there is a big need, and we should not like waste a lot of them because of choices that people are making.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Mohammed Bourdi. The next person is Sister Nadia. Sister Nadia, if you want to go live, you can go ahead and ask your question. I give you permission. You can unmute yourself and talk, Sister Nadia. Sister Nadia, can you hear me? Nadia Kamal?
I'm sorry, I've already had my questions answered, so thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. If anybody else want to go live, please raise your hand and we will give you the chance to speak. Okay, I see Jawhar.
I have another question, if I can.
Go ahead.
Me?
Yes, Sister Nadia, go ahead. Sister Mira, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. The other question, if there's any, place, what the best place can take vaccine from pharmacy, from hospital, from our doctor, and how we know that it's, I know that you told me you have like some, you see like we have some fatigue, some high, that we know that it's works. I mean, if the vaccine work, we have to get, this is some symptoms like fatigue, little bit, you see. This is mean sign that it's effective, efficacy, has efficacy.
About the logistics part, where they're going to get the vaccine, Dr. Bourdi or Dr. Bissati, if you have any other more information than what we discussed, you can go ahead and add. Because at this point, this is all coordinated by federal government through the state, right? Like, for example, in Illinois, we are supposed to get the first dose on Tuesday morning. I was scheduled for getting in the vaccine on Tuesday morning, but we did not get the shipment until about Wednesday afternoon. So it has to change to starting the Thursday afternoon. So this is all coordinated to the state, to the hospital and organization because of the logistic and everything. So it will be all announced phase by phase how it will be coordinated. And the other thing is this vaccines, it does not come in just one vial. It's shipped in multiple vials, multiple doses in one vial. And Pfizer vaccine, for example, is almost like 975 doses need to be given, if anybody wants to take it for distribution. So those are the logistics that is still need to be worked out. You will probably know through your local healthcare organization or your primary care provider at some point. The second question was if you are going to feel the fatigue and things like that, whether it's a sign of vaccine is working. That is correct, because first dose in general give a minor symptom because your immune system is not reacting to that much. So very minor local site infection, pain and injection site redness and things like that. In general, after the second dose, when your immune system is now making a lot of antibody and things like that, when at that point you get a little bit of more symptoms, sometimes fatigue, a little bit of fever, a little bit of headache and body ache, things like that. But as I said in my presentation, most of this symptom only lasted for about 1 or 2 days. And after that, most people will feel fine. Yes, that's probably an indication that your body is making the antibody.
And you want to comment that when it comes, for example, for the FIDSA vaccine, 6 people died. 4 of them had this placebo, which is not vaccine, and 2 had died because they have the vaccine. Beautiful. And people think, oh, we have that, and they got stressed out. But actually, we know that people are going to take the vaccine. Some of them going to die because of the COVID. The efficacy is 95%. That means there are 5% maybe not successful in the efficacy. So basically, even for the side effects, if someone taking the vaccine, you have to understand that the side effect of the vaccine is much mild than the side effect that if you get the COVID-19. especially for a lot of people. I mean, about 20% of the population. Maybe 80% will be asymptomatic, but a lot of other 20% will be like severe. They go to hospital. They may have the side effects for months or for years. So basically, you have to think it in a picture. But I'm sure that when you have the vaccine, the doctor have to watch you for like I think 15 minutes, depending on the guidelines that the FDA and CDC.
Thank you, Dr. Bourdi. Jawhar, go ahead.
What's it with? Oh, hello. Hi, my manager.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Go ahead, please. You can ask your question.
We want to know that
For our practice?
Oh, yeah, for private practice doctors, where do they go to get
We have
vaccine?
the vaccine to give people, right?
Actually, let me answer this question. I just got a call from the CEO from the hospital. For right now, the vaccine is only available to frontline workers, and it is not available to the community. And when it will be available to the community, it will be announced pretty soon. I mean, they have no definite date yet, but the first round that will be given will be to the frontline workers. I just talked to him because, you know, but they had some excessive doses and they wanted the nursing homes in the area and the frontline workers in that area to get that first before anybody else gets it. And I asked this question, can we send in community members to get this? And the answer was no.
Are you saying the doctors? For doctors also?
No, for doctors, yes, you can. If
Where?
you're a frontline worker,
Where do you go?
Where do doctors go to get it?
If you want the vaccine, either you can come tomorrow to Glenoaks Hospital, the area where they are giving it, and show them that you are a frontline worker and bring in your ID card, and I will get you in for the vaccine.
Well, one can go to any hospital, right?
No, I mean, the one that I'm talking to you about is Glenoaks in Glenoaks Heights.
You know, most of the hospital, like for example, the Advocate system, Aurora Advocate is a large system. For example, Pelos Hospital, I know the most of the hospital. This is actually through their database, you know, who are affiliated with those hospital, they are getting notified. Yeah, this is like, for example, Advocate system, they made this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Even among the healthcare worker, they have priority. For example, you know, infectious disease, I'm priority. Critical care, I'm next priority. That's how they are functioning. So if, you know, local private practitioner, they can contact their organization or hospital they're affiliated, and they will be scheduled to get the vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Tabriz. Sister Nadia, let's move on to Tahmina. Sister Tahmina, you can talk now. You can unmute yourself and talk. I think Sister Tahmina left the meeting. Yeah, I'll just give it back to Omar and Dr. Shazad and see if you wanna make any ending remarks. Sister Tahmina? Sister Tahmina, you can talk now if you like. You can unmute and talk.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. I couldn't see the unmute button on my phone. Yeah, sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for your beautiful presentation. I learned a lot today, but I have a specific question for the participants who are for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that's having trial right now. People are having like 50% placebo and 50% actual vaccine. So if they are like frontline workers or any participant, is it safe for them to take the Moderna or the other vaccine?
Which group you are talking about here?
I'm talking about the participants of the other vaccine that's in trial right now.
Actually, if you go to the FDA website, there's a lot of discussion about this. The people who get placebo, if they should be known that they get placebo and not to draw the vaccine, and they should give in the effects. And there's some discussion. Then we are the phase 3 is almost like we are still under observation. And if this group is already taking vaccine again, how are we going to control it to the one that gets vaccine and see if we see down the road some side effect is because of the placebo or it's because of, we can see it also in the placebo or only in the vaccine group. There's a lot of discussion about this, but I don't know what was the conclusion. But there is a scientist arguing about this. We should give vaccine to those who are getting placebo. now because they have the volunteering, but there is a lot of scientists and regulators saying we need to keep them to make sure that down the road, we know that anything we see in the vaccine group is because of vaccine, not of the placebo. Otherwise, we will not have any controls from down the road in months from now.
Got that. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Omar, you can take over now. Dr. Shazad, I'm not sure how you want to do it.
Dr. Shazad, you're muted.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I was muted. I didn't know that. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for this information. Trust me, I mean, out of all the webinars that I've attended so far, this has been the most informative. Most of the webinars that I've attended have been very technical. So they have been so technical that even I could not understand. So basically, all of you guys did an amazing job to teach a community and to teach people who have not a lot of medical knowledge to make the information available to them and make them understand that's the art of a webinar. And you have all done an amazing job. Thank you all. And I hope, like I said in the very beginning, Rabbi Zidni Ilma, may Allah increase my knowledge. So this is Sadqa Jariyah. Whatever you have done today, till the end of time, if one person or two persons can take a good message out of it and practice it and save any life, trust me, this is a Sadqa Jariyah for you till the end of this time. So thank you all for participation, and I would commend Umar, who has done an amazing job. He has been an amazing student of mine too. So I hope he becomes an amazing physician too in 2 years. And you know what, we see him in the same panelist group rather than a participant group. He's in the panelist group. So I hope he is a part of us in very near future. And Ms. Bathana Riyashi did an amazing job combining all of this. And I commend her for this great effort. And inshallah, we will try to keep on doing things as things move along, as new research comes along, as new protocols come along. We will start and informing the community again and again what we are practicing, what we are doing. And I would just like to make one comment to one of the physicians who was in the panel, that if I did not think so it was safe, I wouldn't have taken it. I would not risk my life for anyone else. This is my life. This is my body. So if I can risk it and I can show you that I'm still here, alhamdulillah, even with all the little side effects, I'm still here. So you know what? Everybody can be there. Everybody can take it, and for everybody it is safe. So the other thing is that I want to emphasize this by saying that, you know, if you don't take the second dose, the first dose is ineffective. So basically, please take it. If you have taken the first dose, please take the second dose. And once this vaccine is widely available to the community, please do not hesitate. Don't think so you will be monitored and you will have nanochips in your body. You know what, if you have nanochips in your body, you know what, everybody will be controlled by the internet. So if your internet is cut, you're done. So basically, I would recommend to all of you, please take the vaccine, stay safe, do social distancing, do whatever is required, and inshallah, everyone will be safe. Thank you, Jazakallah khair, everyone, for participation in this meeting. Thank you so much. And I will leave the
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Shazad. Thank you so much for your kind words and for du'as. And I would like to thank all the doctors in this panel. MashaAllah, thank you for giving us your time and giving us these valuable information. I would like to also thank all the participants who made the effort to come and get informed, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you, Umar.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, everybody, again. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair, everyone.
We also would like to thank MAS and ICCI and ICWS for their effort too. Jazakumullah khair, all of you.
Ameen.
We are now going to end the meeting. If anybody would like to add anything before we end, please go ahead. Jazakumullah khair.
No, just would like to thank everybody, and it was very nice getting to know Dr. Bourdi, such an expert and knowledgeable in the field, and then Dr. Bissati, and obviously Dr. Shazad and Omar did a very wonderful job. But yeah, you organized it very well, helped us.
Thank you.
Getting together. Inshallah, it will be helpful for the community. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, all of you.
And just say one word, thank you also for the Chicago community for the invitation, be part of this webinar. And whoever take the vaccine, you should not think it's the end of it. You have to be keeping the connection with your doctor. If you see anything wrong, tell him, make sure it's not coming from something else, make sure it's from the vaccine. And I'm sure by the time goes by, I mean, first you're gonna be having the doctors being dosed first, but the general population will be dosed in 3 months from now. So you're going to see a lot of millions of people taking the vaccine. And I'm sure people will be more confident because by knowing that after millions and millions have taken the vaccine, nothing bad happened. And if something bad happened, they're going to stop it. So we have to be clear about that. There's nothing to worry about as team, at least for the short term. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. And
thank you, Iyakum.
Sister Hussaina, can you tell me when with this on YouTube? This is lectures.
Yes, I will post it in a few minutes in the chat right here, so you could stay with us for a few more minutes.
What's the name of the video? Did we under what the name you put it?
I'll share the link with you, inshallah. It has. I'll share the link. It will have the name and the link immediately to the YouTube, and so you can access it from there.
Okay, thank you, Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you, Jazakallah
I would like also to thank also Sister Bourdi.
Jazakumullah khairan all doctors.
Thank you.
Thank you, sisters.
Thank you, Sister Boutaina and Omar for this nice presentation. Really, it's like I think it's very important that we have we talk science. We are not promoting any company or so we are talking science, and I think it was a good opportunity to have different experts to talk about different things. And inshallah, a lot of things are still ongoing. We don't know exactly like about this vaccine for the children that are less than 12 years old. So a lot of things that I think we have just like to be in touch, and hopefully things that will improve, and then we'll not in 2021 we'll not talk about this COVID. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm going to stay for an extra minute so I can put the YouTube link here. Everybody else, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much.
Thank you.